The Men's Forum is a unique platform designed for men. Why? We believe that men in today's world, globally, they are challenged in more ways than one. What the Men's Forum will do is to lay the foundation to help men to learn and master a strong sense of self, to learn and master a strong sense of purpose, to learn and master a strong sense of direction, and so much more.
Men's Forum wants you to master men's blueprint for life. Learn how to build wealth, build quality relationships with the right people, lead a better and healthier family life, live your full potential, inspire the world. Men were born to lead, keep, and protect the family. Join Men's Forum and master your blueprint for life. Men's Forum, all you need to become a better man.
On this platform, we will also talk about the importance of the family. So, we will introduce to you the Family Forum. Why? Because we believe a strong family can position the entire family for greatness in more ways than one. You can be great socially. You can be great financially. You can be great in so many different ways. And we have an expert who's here today who's passionate about men, who's passionate about the family. And his name is Chris. Chris is multi-talented. One, he works in the field of construction, but he's also exceptionally committed to empowering men and empowering the family. And to demonstrate his commitment, he has written this book, Becoming a Better Man. Now, today we're going to talk about Chris and, the Family Forum. We will talk about the Men's Forum, and we will look at some of the challenges that men are faced with globally. Chris, how are you, my friend?
Good morning. How are you?
I am phenomenal. I must say, it's always a pleasure to sit with you and to talk with you and to pick your brains in terms of, the realities surrounding men, the realities surrounding the family. And as we begin to dive into today's program, I want to ask you some basic questions just before we get into today's program. Chris, you're into construction. And tell me this, would you start construction without your blueprint?
No, without a
Chris,
doubt.
is there a logical reason why men would start a family without having a blueprint for that family? Men will start a family without having a true sense of self. Is there any logical explanation as to why this is happening across the world?
No, there's no logical explanation. The unfortunate thing is that it does happen, because we're young and we're uneducated and we don't have the proper knowledge. But no, I think that, no matter what you're doing, there needs to be planning. There needs to be a blueprint, right? It's a necessity for anything in life. The problem is that we're not taught that when we're young, and we see our parents just kind of stumble through their 20s with no planning, and then like you said, that generational trauma gets, and we do the same thing because we don't know any better, we aren't taught any better. I don't care what the situation is, financial, family, work, personal development, inside everything involves a plan. Everything needs to be planned first. You need to figure out action steps from that plan and then execute those steps.
Chris, I really love that you talk about planning, and I do believe that you're correct. I think most people put time into understanding what it takes to build a house.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of moving parts to build a house.
Mhm.
You have to, lay the foundation proper.
Mhm.
You need the beams, you need the columns, you need, the windows, the doors, the step. I do believe that we all can speak to a process of building a
Mhm.
home, but what is the process to building manhood? What is the process to building familyhood? And you're correct. These are the things that we are taught.
Yeah.
So most people struggle through life not knowing the foundation of manhood, not knowing the foundation of familyhood. So everybody is guessing their way. Everybody are master speculators. But I know, Chris, that you want to change that.
Mhm.
All right. You want to give people, men, a blueprint to
Mhm.
master their manhood,
Mhm.
and you want to give families a blueprint to master familyhood. How important is having a personal life master plan. And what does this looks like in your view?
It's of utmost importance. It is the most important thing, right? I'm a big believer that until you do your proper personal development, you can't do anything else. It was like you were talking about with construction, right? The biggest problem, especially with men, is we don't ask for help and we don't think we need help, right? But if you're building a house, you can't do it alone. And
Yeah.
you mentioned the foundation, which is the start of the construction process, right? But even before that, there's tons of help behind the scenes that nobody sees. You have designers, you have architects, you have engineers, you have office personnel doing permitting and estimating the work and procuring materials, and there's tons of help. The problem is when we're building this house of life, we try to do it all by ourselves,
So yeah.
right? And and then on top of that, like you talked about the sense of self, we don't even believe that we can do it. And
Mm-hmm.
we're still trying to do it all by ourselves. You
Yeah.
know, the first order of business in the sense of self is self-belief,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there
Mm-hmm.
are there are millions of men and women and children out there that do not believe in themselves.
Yeah.
And
Um,
that is the foundation of sense of self, is
yeah.
self-belief.
And that becomes a negative trickle down
Mhm.
effect
It
on
becomes trauma.
generation. It becomes karma.
Mhm.
And Chris, one of the things that I see
Mhm.
is that even when people begin to nurture that sense of self,
Mhm.
they're still thinking limited.
Yeah, it's
They
because they don't
still
believe. They
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 don't
want to
feel.
dream, right? They want to dream they can be more. They want to dream that there's a better life out there, right? But because they have no planning and no help, it seems unobtainable.
Yeah,
So it's like what they call a pipe dream, right? Oh, I wish that I could obtain this, but I have no plan to do it. So therefore, I think I'm incapable of doing
yeah, that's so correct. And
it.
Chris, what I want to share with the public is that
Mhm.
that is the exact reason why we have developed the men's forum. All right. Men don't have to struggle through life trying to figure out what does having a sense of self really means. What Chris has done, he has built out this platform, and in the platform, you're going to have mentors, you're going to have coaches, you're going to have sponsors, and you will have a supportive community to help men to not only find their sense of self, but to master their sense of self where you're not thinking in lack, limitation, doubts, and fear.
Mhm.
But Chris will really help you to begin to understand how to start thinking in abundance
Mhm.
and how to start believing in abundance
Mhm.
and start embracing abundance. The beauty about what Chris has just said, you don't have to do this on your own.
Mhm.
You don't have to be alone. There is a community out here that wants men to strive. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
We have talked a lot, and what I've taken away from our conversation is that the reason you want men to strive is because you want men to do better for their spouses. You want
Mhm.
men to do better for their children. You want men to do better for their communities.
Mhm.
Am I correct?
Yeah, it's 100% correct. And that's exactly why, this whole idea of the men's forum came, right? Because I don't want men to struggle the way I did, right? Like, it's just like with your child. You hear people say that you don't want your child to go through all the stuff that you went through, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in my opinion, we're all God's children, and every man on this planet is my brother. So if I truly believe that and I love my brothers, I would not want to see them struggle the way that I did. So I have
Chris,
made it my life's purpose to come up with a way to help men realize that there is a blueprint and there is a way to where they don't have to struggle and flounder like I did before I figured all this out.
yeah,
So
you you know,
the only way to do that is to get it out in the world, right? Promote it, show them through my own life experiences that I've fallen down on my face, I've gotten back up, and I learned from those lessons. And hopefully, when we get enough people involved in this, they will realize that there is curriculum out there, there's coaching out there, there are mentors out there. There's me. I'm available to anyone that needs me. And I do that because I believe that it's God's purpose. I went through all of those things because my purpose was to come up with these forums and this curriculum and save other brothers and other sisters from having to do the same thing.
yeah. Chris, I want to pick you up on that same point. Save your brothers and save your sisters from doing the same thing. Because let me say, what hurts a lot, Chris. Ever so often, when I'm on platforms with fathers, with men, I would hear men say things like, I went through toughness. I had it tough, and I'm not going to make it easier for my kids. And it breaks my heart to hear a father boasting about his joy and his happiness and his excitement to transfer trauma to his kids. Instead of negative trauma, why not transfer positive trauma?
Right.
If there's such a thing,
I
positive
agree with
trauma
that. I agree with that
to their
100%.
kids. Why not want your kids to know about the challenges that you've been through, but to know how to avoid it and how to optimize their success in life? That is where you are able to reverse what we call generational curses
Right.
and create now a new cycle of growth, a new cycle of wealth creation. And I think all of this is possible from your platform. So, Chris, coming back to the first point, mastering your sense of self, I do believe it is an obligation of every man, everywhere in the world, to really take the time and ask themselves, what does their sense of self represent? And if you can answer this question, you have Chris. All right. He has the book, Becoming a Better Man, that is going to really help you to understand what this process of mastering your manhood represents. It's not about sowing seeds and getting baby. It's not all about that. It is not about going and have funds and being promiscuous. It's much more than that. In fact, some of those things that I've just talked about may destroy your life. You're going to have a blueprint that is going to really uplift you and give you a whole new different perspective on life. And that's why, Chris, I really enjoy the program that you're doing, because I know impact this could have on so many lost men and people out there. Chris, can we just push it a little bit now? We have talked a little bit about sense of self, and sense of self is all about you. It's about you fixing you. And if you can't fix you, you're not ready for life. You're not ready for a spouse. You're not ready for kids, because you ain't right. You're going to traumatize everybody. We know that you have the recipe. We know that you have the blueprint. It's in the book, and with your courses, we know that men are going to be fixed in this regard. But can we talk a little bit about having a sense of purpose, a strong sense of purpose? Because sometimes we see you have a sense of self, but then your sense of self is not properly aligned to your sense of purpose and service to society.
Without a doubt, I think there's numerous power points that I have as far as finding a sense of purpose, right? But
Yeah.
what I've realized through my own years is that we are groomed a certain way to think what our purpose is, right? But what we don't realize is that we were born with a purpose. We were put on this earth with a purpose, right? Some people were born to lead. Some people were born to support. Some people were only born to love, but everybody was put on this planet with a certain purpose.
Purpose.
And the problem is that, so men and women are different, right? Most of us have read the book, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? And all those things, right? We are different, but God created us that way for a reason.
Yeah.
The problem is that because we are different, we block certain traits that God gave us to allow us to master things like sense of self and sense of purpose. Women tend to lean more on the vulnerability than they do their masculinity. Men
Yeah.
do the exact opposite. We lean on the masculinity and we reject the vulnerability.
Yeah.
And what you'll realize through this book and through this forum is that is the true ingredient to mastering your sense of self and your sense of purpose, is mastering your vulnerability as a man. Once
Chris,
you
I
can
really,
realize that it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay to not have all the answers, that is the only time that you open yourself up to start searching for a sense of purpose, to start searching for an action plan, to start planning things correctly. As long as you're on the masculine side of your brain, you're never going to be able to fully absorb everything that's in front of you. But once you embrace the feminine side and the vulnerability side of your creation, then you will be able to come up with a complete plan and execute that plan.
Good. Chris, I've so much enjoyed how you step by step walk us through this. But as you talk about purpose, I'm getting some aha moment over here, Chris, because
Mm-hmm.
this is what I'm thinking about. I'm relating what you're saying to myself, and I'm beginning to ask myself, what is my purpose? And
Mm-hmm.
Chris, I can say this. I can give you a step by step.
Mm-hmm.
My first purpose is to serve my creator. My second purpose is to serve myself because I
Mm-hmm.
recognize if I don't fill myself up to become the cup that is in overflow, I
Yep.
really can't serve anyone else. So I have
Amen
a
to that.
purpose for
Amen to
myself.
that.
My third purpose is to serve my spouse. I want her to
Mm-hmm.
be happy. I want her to be excited. I don't want her to know her needs. I don't want her to be in stress. I don't want her to be going through any trauma. And I see it as part of my purpose to serve her at the highest level. Next, I see my kids. I want to serve my kids at the highest level. And
Mm-hmm.
to me, this is all a part of representing my manhood, my
Mm-hmm.
purpose. From my family, I then could start to look at the community. I can
Mm-hmm.
look at organization. I can look at how to make the world a better place. Chris, what I love about this sequence, that's exactly what we are doing, Chris. We
Mm-hmm.
believe in the creator, we serve ourselves, we serve the spouse, we serve in our kids. Now, guess what you're doing, Chris? You're now serving organizations, you're serving communities, and we are
Mm-hmm.
putting this information out to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me is, one of the highest level of service that we can give. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. I mean, when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about sense of purpose, does all of the above represent your general understanding of living from purposes?
Yeah, it's 100%. Like so you know how you hear people say, I feel this nudge to do this, right? Or I feel this pull to go this way. Well, ever since I was very young, I've always kind of known that I was born to lead. And so I got on stage very young and I thought that that was my purpose. My purpose was to give people joy by singing, right? But that was only part of it. The joy part was right. My part of my purpose was to give people joy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my purpose was so more well-rounded than that. And the problem is because of the trauma that we are passed down from so many different ways, it inhibited us for a long time from seeing what our actual purpose is. And so you get clouded with all these other things, and it blocks you from seeing who you really are and who you're supposed to be, right?
Exactly.
Right. And so
Exactly.
eventually, the only way to find your true sense of purpose is to eliminate all the trauma. And that's the biggest part that we struggle with is letting go and eliminating the trauma.
And
But
people don't know how to.
they don't.
People don't know how
And
to.
and then once you can finally do that, then your sense of purpose becomes perfectly clear.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Mm-hmm.
I used to say, and I've said on podcasts and I've said in a lot of different platforms that I had to go through everything I had to go through to be able to do this now. Right. Well,
Yeah.
that's not 100% correct. That was the way I figured it out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't necessary.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was is I had tons of trauma and tons of other things blocking me from seeing what my real purpose was. And
Yeah.
all that pain was necessary to get me to a point to where I was willing to let go of all that trauma.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that because many millions of people across the world they get stuck in the trauma. They're never
Mhm.
able to break through that trauma. So it affects you, the individual,
Mhm.
but because you haven't found your breakthrough to break free from the shackles of the negative things that are holding you back,
Mhm.
you're stopped. Your life, your entire future is hijacked, and that's the last thing that you want to do with your life. Your
Yeah.
life is a precious thing, and
Yeah.
you want to figure things out. And as you said, Chris, there are many persons who are going through their situation, but they just don't ask for help. Men don't ask for help
Yeah.
because men are taught to raise your chin and embrace it. It's a part of life. But you're human and you need help.
Yeah.
Coming back to help, Chris. Again, this platform, Men's Forum, Family Forum, is going to fix men. It's
Mhm.
going to help men to understand how to master their manhood,
Mhm.
but it's also going to help men to understand how to build and master the family. You talk
Mhm.
about something early on, Chris.
Mhm.
In building that home, in building that building, there's the foundation, but before the foundation, there's a lot of work that has to be done prior
Mhm.
to building the foundation.
Mhm.
And I do believe every man, you owe it to yourself. If you're taking yourself serious, if you're taking your spouse serious, if you're taking your children and your future kids serious, you need to develop the plan for your life. If you don't have the
Mhm.
plan, the possibility exists that you're going to create an unwanted situation for yourself and for them. that's not the best use of your life.
Yeah,
And
without
here's
a
where
doubt.
we have the family forum. The family forum is going to help you to understand how to live and lead a more purpose driven life.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And when you need a mentor and the coach and the sponsor and the supportive community to help you navigate all of this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to say that, Chris, he has that blueprint. And what I love about Chris' blueprint, Chris is not the guy that just studied and get his blueprint and write his thesis and get his blueprint. Chris lived and experienced the blueprint that you will be exposed to. Chris is the kind of guy that lost his wife, but because of love and because of fixing himself and mastering his manhood, he was able to rekindle a healthy working relationship with his wife. So he has all these stories to share with you as to how we did it and how to prevent these things from happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the family forum comes in,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where purpose. I do believe if you're navigating your life and you don't have purpose, you tend to feel lost. And Chris, correct me here again if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Here is where we see a lot of successful people, because you can be successful, but you can still feel empty because your life don't have purpose.
Well, it's
A lot of
100% right.
successful people commit suicide and all of these things.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about how purpose really helps to shape your humanity, how purpose shapes your humanity?
Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head, right? Because I lived that life. I was that guy that was successful on the outside and completely miserable on the inside.
On the
I was
inside.
that guy for a very long time, and I couldn't figure out why. Like, all right, I got the good job, I got the wife, I got the kid, I got nice car. Like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just be happy? Why can't I feel love? Why can't I feel contentment? And all of that was because the first order of business in self love, self purpose, however you want to say it, is loving thyself. If you look up the word in the dictionary, self love, it's loving thyself first.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about it with the cup runneth over.
Yeah.
If we're full of trauma and negativity, then we
That's all
can't.
can run over.
That's what
That's
that's
all
what
can
runs
run over.
over. We can't love because we're not letting love overflow out of the cup.
Yeah.
So I wanted to love my kids. I wanted to love my wife. I wanted to love myself. I did not know how.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
until you learn the blueprint and until you can figure out a way to let go of all the trauma and figure
Yeah.
out a way to have a positive mindset or a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset.
Thanks.
Those things are essential in order to love yourself. And I finally learned that not only can I not receive love, I can't give love until I love myself first.
Amen. Love that. Love that. Chris, I want to, put out an appeal to men across the world. And we are men, and we would have gone through some things in our lives. We are
Mm-hmm.
big men now,
Mm-hmm.
although we might look young, right? We are big men.
Yeah.
So I want to say that you don't have to go through life trying to figure out how to own your sense of self and how to master your sense of self.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to go through life trying to figure out how to live and lead a purpose driven life. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because Chris has written this book, Becoming a Better Man, that is going to help you to understand a blueprint for life,
Mm-hmm.
a blueprint to master who you
Mm-hmm.
are, a blueprint to embrace the best quality of family life. And you're going to have mentors, you're going to have coach, you're going to have sponsors, you will have a supportive community to give you that support. Sometimes I know for a fact, Chris, that some people, they have no one to lean on, or
Mm-hmm.
so they believe. All right.
Mm-hmm.
They have no one to talk to, or so they
Yep.
believe. Well, you don't have to feel that way anymore, because now you have the men's forum. Now you have the family forum. Now you have a community that is here committed to serve you.
Yep.
Chris, as we begin to wrap up today, can we
Mm-hmm.
talk a little bit about having that sense of direction?
Yeah.
Because what I find happens sometimes, Chris, you have a sense of self, or, some believe of what that is. You have a sense of purpose, how to serve, but many persons I recognize do not direct the energy in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
They don't talk to the right people. They don't put their energy in all of the right
Mm-hmm.
direction, and all of
Mm-hmm.
these things we see happening. Can you talk about the importance of having a strong sense of direction?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I was just talking yesterday to a guy that I guess you would call me his mentor, and we were talking about this exact topic because he has a client now that he's really struggling with in this direction. And I told him, I said, it's like, say you're a kid and you're playing in the woods, and after you played in the woods for quite a long time, those woods inside and out. So it can get dark, it can get whatever, you'll never get lost. You know exactly where you're at. Well, the problem is that as a human being, we get thrown into this thing called life, and it's the wood. But we don't know where we're at. We have no direction. So we go to the left, we go to the right, we go backwards, and everywhere we go, it's all trees, and we can't see a path, right? So we have no idea what the direction is because we can't see it. And how do you see something? How do you learn something? It's through knowledge, it's through education, it's through somebody else telling you which way to go. So the thought of that we might have to find our own direction is completely ludicrous. It's impossible. It's unobtainable. I told you the biggest blessing that God ever gave me was to give me another child late in life, because I get this do-over with my 9-year-old son, and I see him now struggling with lack of direction, peer pressure, coping mechanisms, all these things. It starts for us so young. He is starting to let people treat him in ways that are not suggested or intolerable just because he wants to feel accepted, or because he wants to fit in, or because he wants to get along. He hasn't learned how to set boundaries. He hasn't learned how to come up with action steps to realize that people need to be treated with love. And if they don't treat you with love back, it's because they don't know how to love. And your job is to teach them how to love, right? We're not born with any of these skills. They have to be taught. And the problem is they're not taught. So the reason that most of us have no direction in life is because we were never taught what the direction is. That's what this book is about. That's what this blueprint is about. It gives you a way to teach people when they're younger how to find that direction, how to be taught what a positive direction is versus a negative. Nobody ever talked to me about positive direction and negative direction and boundaries and coping mechanisms and all these things. I was 40 something years old before I started hearing any of those words. That's what this forum is about. That's what this book is about, to make it okay to talk about those things and make it
Yeah.
easier for you to love, make it easier for you to figure out what the proper direction is, what the action steps are, what tools you have around you. Those are all things that need to be talked about a lot more.
Chris, you said a couple of things that I think is very important. You talk about having your sense of self. You talk about boundaries, and that relates to sense of direction. And I do believe that those things that you've mentioned they're so important. One of the things that I talk with young people a lot about, including my kids, in life, you have to teach people how to respect you. You have to demand respect.
Yeah.
And the way you demand it is not by force.
Right.
You have to become someone of value.
Amen.
And you have to position that value in front of people. And when people know that, hey, you are the value that they want, believe me, they're going to pull themselves together. There are those who would try to push back at your value. But you need to understand, when you have a strong sense of direction, how to put on the blinders. All right, because you're focusing on where you want to go, why you want to get there, and how to get there. With my younger son, I often have the conversation with him because he's very strong-willed. He's believing himself so much that he believes on his own he can conquer the whole world. I said, perhaps you can, but there are smarter ways to do these things. All right, so let the adult in the room, let those with the knowledge and the experience, let those at the men forum, let those at the family forum provide you with the mentorship, the coaching, the sponsor, the support to make better, smarter, wiser life decisions that is going to accelerate your growth. You see, you don't want to be, the reason you're going to have a mentor, a coach, a sponsor, and supportive community is not to go slower, but it's to accelerate the pace in which you grow in every aspect of your life.
Amen.
All right. That's what I love about
the biggest thing is, right, is there's certain things that should be taught. Don't get me wrong, education is very important, right? We need to learn arithmetic, we need to learn all those things, right? But we don't teach kids how to love. We don't teach kids acceptance. We don't teach kids boundaries. We don't teach kids coping mechanisms. We don't teach them, when somebody treats you a certain way, you need to look at it as, okay, how can I help him change? What is going on in his life that makes him treat me this way? And can I be of assistance to help him better himself? Because that will automatically allow him to treat me better. Right? We're not taught any of that. Because we yearn for acceptance. We yearn for popularity. We yearn for all these things from such a very young age, but we're not taught how to properly attain those things.
Where we have the men's forum now, we have the family forum, we have this book now, which is Becoming a Better Man, that is designed to teach you all of this. Chris, it's always a pleasure talking with you, my brother. Any last words you want to share before we wrap up today's program?
Yeah, I just want to say, look, it's out there. It's no secret that I struggle with all of these things for 4 decades of my life. And the whole reason that we created this platform, wrote the book, created the forums, was just to try to help people not have to struggle for 40 years. It is not necessary for you to struggle to be successful. The only necessary component of success is knowledge and capability. We are giving you a platform that gives you those things. It gives you knowledge and it allows you to be capable to be whoever you want to be. The only thing you have to do is reach out and grab it. So I plead with everyone out there, join this forum, register for the forums, read the book, contact me on any platform that you see me on, contact Gary. We're doing all this to help because we finally figured all this stuff out. And now we want to make sure that it is accessible for everyone in the world to be able to figure it out for themselves.
Yeah. And what I want to say to the public, go to the description of this video, go there right now. You don't need to wait. You don't need to procrastinate. Don't be a master procrastinator. Go there right now. And you're going to see the link for the men's forum. Press that link and register men. And for the family, there's a link for the family forum. Press that link and you can register the entire family. On our platform, we're going to talk about finding yourself and finding purpose and finding a sense of direction. Guess what else? We're going to talk to you about building wealth. We're going to give you a blueprint to build wealth. And if you want to start and scale a business and you need capital to do so, we're going to put you in contact with the right people. You see, this is a one-stop shop, all right, for the family, for men, all right? And we want to set you up for success. You don't have to struggle, all right? The reason that Chris and I, we were sharing our life experience, especially Chris, because Chris would have been through certain stuff that, I have never gone through. And thank God that he is specializing in his field because he's able to bring some raw knowledge and raw experiences, and you can't beat that. I can only talk from, secondhand interpretation of what that real stuff is all about, but he been through it. So he's going to give you an organic view of what it takes to navigate hitting rock bottom and rising to the top again, all right? So he's a good mentor, a good coach, and the community is going to give you sponsorship and support to go after your dreams and achieve them. Chris, thanks again for being with me today, and I'm definitely looking forward for our next conversation that I know will have tremendous impact on men and the family across the world.
For sure, brother. Have an incredible day, and I will talk to you later.
Definitely.
Family Forum, for a new generation of people. Learn smart ways to build individual and generational wealth. Live and lead more purpose-driven lives. Build and leverage community leadership. Build strong personal and corporate brands. Take personal and collective ownership of family life. Family Forum, for a new generation of families.